Hello, everybody out there. I am Dan. I have, of
And
course, right here.
Angela.
Yeah, we got Angela. Thank you for tuning in to this live video here today. I'm just double checking, making sure, and I'm able to follow along in the group so I can see your comments because that is one thing we want to see here as we are live in the 101 group. We're here to answer your questions. We have a half an hour that we can answer anything. So if you have questions, please put them in the comments here. So we can answer them. We've been trying to do these regularly, so you new people on trial can get your questions into this group, and we will answer them. And of course, Angela, we've been doing this for a while, and we've seen quite a few questions come in, and we just wanted to give people, as we start waiting for those questions to come in, we wanted to give people some of our troubleshooting tips and things that we see come up a lot, and some solutions to how to avoid those. So if someone's trying to live stream for the first time, they might see this pop up and they can go, oh yeah, I saw that on that live stream, and this is how you fix it. So what do you think? Should we answer some of those?
Yeah, let's get started.
Cool. Well, of course, it's in the name, Switcher Studio. One of the things you do is switch between cameras. We have two up here. I also have a fun third here. Let me do it this way. Let me go 1, 2, 3. We also have
Are
this
we on
third
the
thing.
trio?
So yeah, if you guys have questions or want to see something with the interface, we can point it out here. But yeah, we got multiple cameras here. And a question we get sometimes is cameras are not connecting. Angela, could you tell people what they can do to troubleshoot and figure out and fix what could be causing their cameras not to connect, not to show up in the on the sources list?
Yeah, there's a few things that we always recommend when we see that. So the first one is make sure they're on the same Wi-Fi network. And a lot of times that's all it is. They're on a slightly different Wi-Fi network, like one's on 2G, one's on 5G, or you might not have one connected to Wi-Fi at all. This is the same if you're using a hotspot, make sure they're connected to that same hotspot. So once you've seen that they are on the same network, the next thing to do is to make sure you're only signed in to your main switching device. So that's where you want to put your email address and password. For the rest, you're going to, from the home screen, choose share this device, and you can choose remote camera. If you are trying to sign into that remote camera, it's going to keep bouncing you out of your main device because you can only be signed into one device at a time. And that's another big thing that we see a lot is people are trying to sign into all of them, and it's just booting them out, basically. The third thing to try, if you've done that and it's still not connecting, is try going to a different private Wi-Fi network or sometimes just a different hotspot and see if it connects that way. Most of the time it will. And what that means is either your hotspot's not strong enough, or if it's a Wi-Fi connection, a lot of times there's just a setting on that on that router that's not compatible with Switcher. We have a list in the Help Center of our networking recommendations that shows exactly what settings to put on your router. So if you experience that where it's just not connecting on one certain Wi-Fi network, you can search for that or write to us at support@switcherstudio.com, and we'll send you that list. It's like 5 things to look for. And once you enable that, you'll be able to connect on that, originally intended network as well.
I'm gonna go ahead and put in that networking requirements article you were just suggesting or telling people about.
Yes,
So
and that's a great article. The top goes over Wi-Fi. In the middle, you've got hotspots, and then at the bottom, you've got Ethernet. So it's one article for everything you need.
yeah. So another question we get a lot, Angela, is talking about we hear it be told a whole bunch of different ways. The video might be lagging. It could be dropping frames. I've seen glitching used, like the video's glitching in and out, popping video. Could you talk about what could be causing that?
A lot of times that's also a network issue, and it's not the first thought a lot of times for users, because a lot of times people look at their speed and say, I have a fast network, so it's not my network. Just so you guys know, we do recommend for best results with most streaming, settings that you use to have 3 megs of upload speed or more. A lot of times we do see an issue where people have 1, and that's what's causing the problem. But a lot of times it's fast, but you're still running into some bandwidth issues. So the first thing we recommend is if you're streaming on Facebook or using a custom RTMP, when you set that up in the app, make sure within an hour of your production while you're on location, because you want to be in that same environment, when you create your event, you can choose to optimize. And what that does as you're creating the event is it runs a speed test, it tests the network, and it'll pick the quality setting for you. A lot of times it's just your network needs medium or high, you're picking HD, and that's what's causing those drop frames, that lag, everything like that. If you're streaming elsewhere to YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, I still recommend just starting a Facebook event, running that, seeing what Facebook recommends, and then you can close out and use that same setting. So if Facebook told you you would need high, then when you go to create YouTube, make sure you still use high. Another thing that we do recommend is turning on one of our Wi-Fi optimization settings. That's called
reinforce. I can show you exactly where to find that too.
Yes, Dan has the handy dandy iPad. It's a reinforced Wi-Fi mode, so you can use this for a hotspot as well. And what this does is it just, makes everything a little bit more stable. So this is going to create a lot less of those dropped frames. So I recommend leaving this on if you're going to a new network or if you're having repeated issues. And this is also going to help to keep your network steady. The last thing we just mentioned, and Dan dropped in the comments, that networking requirements article, go through that as well. If you have time before you go live, a few days before, make sure your router has that. If you've been having issues, double check that. Even if you've been using that network and all of a sudden you're having issues, don't be afraid to check it. Sometimes routers will do a reset and your settings might have changed and you haven't noticed. Also, don't be afraid to contact your internet service provider or your mobile data provider if you're using a hotspot. A lot of times you just need an upgrade or a new router, and your internet service provider a lot of times will send you a new one for free if they see this is out of date or we can tell this router is having issues. So even if you've had success and all of a sudden you're starting to have these issues, it might not be the app, it might not be your iPhone or iPad. Always check your network first, make sure your settings are in, contact your provider. A lot of times they'll get you back to normal within, a few minutes.
Yeah, that's some great advice. Just a little more information about the Wi-Fi camera communication. We're just giving the cameras more time to communicate. So the delay goes up a little bit. It's not by much. I always keep mine in reinforced Wi-Fi mode and never run into problems. I see a good question here in the comments. John Paul is asking, is custom camera view positioning and or size in multi-view / picture-in-picture on the roadmap? So you can customize the picture-in-pictures we have right now. If you want to do like a custom one, that's not available right now, but we can do quite a bit right now. Let me do this view with us so I can show us the Switcher Studio dashboard. But yeah, if you go to the plus menu and then multi-views, we have all these different options here, and these can be have multiple, so for instance, the dashboard can have up to 4. This grid can have up to I believe 9. Yeah. So along with adjusting just how many sources are live right here, you're also able to change the background. As you can see, Angela and I have like the Switcher Studio logo with this blue color behind us. You can change that to a solid color or just a background image as well if you have that. As far as like picture-in-picture, here we can actually, what do we call this one? Yeah, this one we do call picture-in-picture, but we can actually drag the second source around, resize it, move it where we want it, make the border thicker, not like in here with all these different options. You can do some cool stuff, like maybe make it a circle if you wanted to have it be like a circle for your that B source. We've seen this used a lot if people are like reacting to a video or want to show a video in the A panel and then the B be like a shot of themselves. So Yeah, I hope that answers your question, John Paul. If it doesn't, if you could clarify a little bit, we'd be happy to answer that a little more. But yeah, you can do some customization with the picture-in-picture and multi-views. Yeah, let me just tap done, and as you can see, that is now an option down here.
And to
So
kind of
yeah,
add to that, if you have a great idea for anything, but for this example, any kind of multi-view effect, you can always write in to support@switcherstudio.com and just say, hey, I have a feature request. We do take all of those into consideration. They're not a guarantee. We can't give an ETA, but all of the updates that we do perform, a lot of them come from feature requests. We do take all of them seriously. Even if something isn't done immediately, it's still, hey, in the future, maybe we can bring this in. So if you have something that would really, really benefit you, don't be afraid to send that as a feature request. We will respond to let you know we've received it, and it will be cataloged. And anytime we do have an update, we send out an email and make a blog post letting you know the new features. So if your feature gets added, you'll know the second it does.
yeah. Christopher in the comments as well saying, I love what you all have done with the software. Thanks for the contribution. Thank you for checking out Switcher and being a user and commenting on this video and being active in the group. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I know another question that comes up some, and this is great for this sort of a video, and especially people who are on trial, is talking about the watermark. So could you, Angela, maybe tell us a little bit about what the watermark is and how you can get rid of it?
Yeah, so the watermark is exclusive to trials. This is something, there's two characteristics on it. So the first is a little logo that's going to be towards the bottom that says hashtag made with Switcher. And there's going to be a little tiny Switcher Studio logo, our actual logo at the top. And so this is going to be on any video that's produced while you're on a trial. Now, once you're not on a trial, you can be on any of our three plans. So Essentials, Standard, or Plus. This watermark will go away. So two things I do want to let you know. If you know you want to use Switcher, you have a production to make, and it's within that 14 days and you don't want those watermarks on, you can always upgrade early by logging into your dashboard at switcherstudio.com. And when you go to billing info, you can go ahead and select a plan, put in your billing, and that's going to immediately put you through to a paid plan. So that way you're off a trial. After this, just simply log out of your dashboard and your app, and then sign back in with your email address and password. This is going to ping the system, so it now reflects your plan. So the watermark will be gone. If you have purchased it and you've purchased a plan, you're still seeing the watermark, make sure to sign out and in. If you don't, if that doesn't fix it, write into us at support@switcherstudio.com and we can see what's going on. Another question we do see related to this sometimes is sometimes a user will say, I recorded this 2 weeks ago, I've now gotten a plan, but the watermark's still on this video from 2 weeks ago. With Switcher Studio and with any recording or broadcast, once something is made, it's made. Like everything is coded in, it's permanent that way. So when you upgrade to a paid plan, it doesn't remove the watermarks from any old videos. Those will always have our brand on it as something that was made as a trial. So again, if there is something important that you're not wanting that on, make sure to go ahead and upgrade in advance, and that's going to prevent you from having the watermarks on those videos. But they will not go away from previously recorded or previously streamed videos.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a great explanation, and thank you for that, Angela. Yep. So another thing, you talked a little bit earlier about updates and making sure that stuff comes out. Well, iOS just had an update to iOS 14, and something I've seen a lot is people asking about iOS 14. Is it safe to update? How's Switcher going to run with iOS 14? So do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what's going on with iOS 14 and how Switcher will do with it?
Yeah, so as of now, as long as you have the latest version of Switcher Studio installed, you can use iOS 14. Now, since it is a new update from us and a new update from Apple, I do recommend if you have some huge production that's coming up in the next week and you're on iOS 13 where everything is working, wait until after that happens before you update everything. But if you've already updated, you are good to go as long as you're using the latest version of Switcher Studio. You will have to go into your settings and provide permissions for the cameras to make sure the cameras can connect. We've seen some users who have written in after updating to iOS 14 and they say my cameras won't connect, and that's because with iOS 14 you do have to provide those permissions again. We sent out an email about a week or two ago that walks through the steps. If you did not receive that email or if you've deleted it and you need it again, be sure just to write to us at support@switcherstudio.com and we can send you those steps again. But at this point, you're pretty much good to go. If you have any questions, if you're not sure if something's related to iOS 14 or to an issue you're just having, let us know. We'll walk you through it. And of course, if you see anything that's just running a little funny, never be afraid to let us know. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times it is a quick fix. If it's not, we're happy to work with you through that. But you're good to go on your iOS 14.
Yep, we always try and make sure that we are compatible as quickly as possible. So yeah, and if we do see an issue, we are going to fix it as fast as possible. I see another question come in here, and if you just joined us, we did cover this a little bit earlier, talking about they're saying the network has dropped many times when using the Ethernet connector. What should they do? So yeah, there's an article we talked about above in the comments here that will give you some information, but the quick of it is make sure to do a speed test. Make sure you are choosing the right quality for the streams. You have the right quality for the upload speeds you have. Make sure, if possible, you are on a closed network. So only you or just a select few people are using that network to connect. Because if you have a whole lot of people on that network, even if you're using the Ethernet connector, there still could be a lot of traffic bogging down that network, causing it to run a little bit slower, and therefore your internet might drop out. So highly recommend having a closed network if possible. I've seen it used a lot in the enthusiast group. They talk a lot about networking there, and the term BYOI, I think, BYOR, one of those has been brought up a bunch. Bring your own internet or bring your own router to plug in and connect your switcher platform to. So yeah, Angela, anything else to touch on that?
Those are pretty much the main things I recommend. A lot of times, what we see happen is someone will start using an Ethernet connection and they think because it's a direct connection, they can just immediately go up to HD. It still depends on your internet service. It still
Mm-hmm.
depends on your router. Like Dan said, depends on if other people are using your network because that's going to start dropping that bandwidth. So you still, even with Ethernet, need to run that speed test. You still need to keep people from joining that network if possible. And also, as we mentioned, don't be afraid to bring your own router. Or if it's a router you already own and you're wondering why is this happening, don't be afraid to contact your internet service provider. And a lot of times they can run, a couple of tests and see if your router is performing the way it should.
So I see a couple more really good questions here in the comments as well. I see which platform is more compatible with Switcher Studio, Restream, or Caster. They both will work really well with Switcher. Switcher has, I'll show you here in the outputs, it has this custom RTMP. Oh, I'm pointing at something I'm not showing you guys on screen. Let me fix that. Yeah, so in our outputs tab down here, we have this custom RTMP option. Oh, I'm gonna not click on it so we don't have the pop-up show up. But yeah, this custom RTMP is how you'll switch to stream to them. They'll give you a stream key and stream URL, and you're able to plug those into your Switcher Studio dashboard. That will sync automatically with the iPad, and those events will show up under this custom RTMP. So we'll send video to them, and then they'll simulcast it out to the different platforms that you want. So really, it's personal preference. Whichever one fits your needs better, both will work. And then I see a question here, which is also good, saying, should I use an iPad Pro as the main switcher? If yes, why? And they're saying they currently have an iPad Air 1 that they're using. Using older devices as the main switcher can lead to some laggy video. And the reason that is because those older devices have lower processing power or might not be able to update to the latest iOS. And if they have a slower processing power, it's going to take more time for them to kind of cycle through all the video that's being sent to them, process it, and then send it out. So I recommend always using the newest device you have as your main switcher device. I use an iPad Pro is what I'm using right now. The second device here is an older iPad Pro, but still works well. I don't know how old the iPad Air. I think the iPad Air first gens are a little bit older. So if they don't update to iOS 13 or 14, you're not going to be able to take full advantage of Switcher Studio and all the functions it has. So yeah, it might be worth updating that. Anything you'd like to add to that, Angela?
That's pretty much my recommendation as well. I always say, if possible, try to have an iPad as your main device. It is a lot larger, it's a little bit easier to control, and a lot of our tutorials are done with iPad, so that way things will match up. But again, if you do have even like a newer iPhone, you might want to consider making the iPhone your main device and an iPad, one of the remote cameras. One thing I would want to caution is if you are using a lot of external devices, like you're using a mixer or an external microphone or Ethernet or something, before you upgrade, check what plugins, your new device is going to have, because we have seen people, get a new device and then suddenly they have to buy a bunch of new adapters to fit with that device because there's no longer a headphone jack or they need USB-C. So instead of getting the absolute newest and having to purchase a lot of new equipment, a lot of times you can get one that's still only about a year or two old, has the same connections, and that's still going to do you well. The iPad Pros, you have some with headphone jack, some with lightning ports, some with USB-C. So think about what you have, and if you're not ready to upgrade your adapters, make sure just to scroll through, see what connections are with the new device you're trying to buy, and it's still well worth it to buy an iPad Pro that might be a year or two old so that you don't have to update your adapters.
That's some great advice there, Angela. Yeah, you don't need the newest device to do it. Of course, having the newest device will future-proof yourself. Even some of the more budget iPad, I think like I forget what the new models that are coming out, but they have like the student versions, which still have great processors in them. A lot of times they just have a lower camera, which if you're using it as the main switcher, a lot of times that's not being used as a camera as well. So it can work out really, really well. So yeah, that's some great advice there. And those old devices can work as remote cameras as well. If you're happy with the quality, they will work as a remote camera. I do see in the comments here, Will is checking in saying, hey, hello, Will. Thanks for all your help as well. Yes, Will is a great person to ask about church services. He's done a ton and is an excellent user of Switcher Studio. So thanks for tuning in, Will. Angela, we have about 6 minutes left. Is there anything else big that you want to talk about? I have in our list here running out of space or inserting assets. Do you want to talk about either one of those? And then we'll just answer any last questions here before we say bye for the day.
Yeah, I can go ahead and go over that. So one thing to watch out for is your space. So we have people people mention a lot, they ran out of space and it caused a stream to crash or a camera to crash. So do remember, by default, Switcher Studio will place a recording, even if you're streaming, it'll also place a recording onto your main switching device. If you're using director mode, it means it's placing a recording on all of your devices, and then they are all going to be placed onto your main switching device. So it's going to need a lot of room for that. So kind of, a little checklist I do before I ever go live. Make sure you've got adequate space. An easy way to do that is after you're done with the production, when, you have a chance, move over the files you no longer need. I like to plug it into a computer and just use iTunes to mass drag things off of it, and that's going to clear up some space. We do have
show the
a
I button
warning.
here. Yeah.
Yes, we have a warning that'll pop up. This eye will turn yellow if there's an issue, and it'll show you're almost out of storage. So you'll have some time. Maybe you'll say we need to end the broadcast, but we'll be back in 5 minutes. And that way you're not having to worry about it crashing. You can also get a look quickly at what space all of your devices have by going to this panel. So if Dan had, let's say 2 other iPhones connected to this iPad, it would show this amount of what the battery life is, what the storage is for all of those. So do keep in mind, go through, make sure you have space beforehand. That's going to keep you from having problems after. And the higher quality you're using, the faster that space is going to go. So you can get away with cleaning out your main device, maybe a couple of times a month if you're using 720. If you're doing director mode 4K productions, that needs to be every time to make sure you're not running out of space. Another thing we see with space is asset storage with Switcher Cloud. So this is something that we provide for users on any of our subscriptions. It's not available on trial, but as soon as you're on any subscription, you have Switcher Cloud. And this is the easiest way to upload an asset, which is an image or a video that you want to use in your production. So a pre-recorded video like an intro or B-roll, or your own logo, or a picture you took that's relative to your stream. And you can do this in the app, but also on your dashboard. There is a limit for all of the plans of how many you can upload. And we do see in our support center a lot of times, users will say they deleted out some of their assets, but it's still showing as full, and they're not sure why. And a lot of times it's just that they have not fully deleted the asset. There's a file and an artwork, and sometimes you just have files selected or artwork selected, so you're not actually deleting the full thing. What I recommend is doing your cleanouts on your dashboard. So you're logging in at switcherstudio.com and going to Switcher Cloud, and in the top right corner at that point, it's going to show a drop-down box. And when you click that, select all, and that way you know you are cleaning out everything. In the Switcher Studio Help Center, if you go to the Switcher Cloud article, there is also a picture showing where it says all. So you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But if you're one of those, one of those users, you feel like you're cleaning out your assets, you're not seeing anything come in, 9 times out of 10, you just don't have all selected, and you're only deleting out a part of that asset.
And that Switcher Cloud article that Angela mentioned, which can be found at our website, support.switcherstudio.com, and the Help Center is below in the comments, so you can check that out there. Last question I see here, 4K productions cannot be live, correct? And Will did answer that. Yeah, 4K streaming would be insane, how much bandwidth you would need to do it. So most people are watching on their phones anyways, so a 4K stream isn't really necessary. 720p seems to work great. 1080p you can do on YouTube and on some Facebook settings, as Will has also shown here. So yeah, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for those who tuned in and asked us some great questions. Of course, if you still have questions, please email them to support@switcherstudio.com. Ask them in this group and we'll answer them. And if you're watching this after the fact and you want to watch one of these live, comment below a good time that you are able to watch. And because we're trying to switch these up each week, however often we do them, and do them at times that don't just accommodate the same people every week, but we want to hit as many people as possible. So if there's a good time that works for you, let us know in the comments here, so we can make sure that we're doing these at the correct times. Angela, thank you so much for joining me and answering these questions. I know I kind of put you on the spot asking you, and she's one of the experts, so she has all the answers. So thank you so much.
See you guys.